Welcome to How Can I Keep From Singing, a podcast where we explore the power and benefits and joy of singing together. My name is Stuart Stotts, coming to you from rural Wisconsin, and my guest today is Dr. Arla Good. Dr. Good is an adjunct professor in the Department of Psychology at Toronto Metropolitan University and the co-director and lead researcher of the SingWell Project, an international research initiative investigating the potential of group singing to support psychosocial well-being, communication, and health in older adults. She earned her PhD in psychological science from Toronto Metropolitan University, where she continues to develop community-engaged, interdisciplinary research at the intersection of music, psychology, and health across a range of populations. Her research has been supported by national and international funders and featured in both academic and public forums. Arla, welcome to How Can I Keep From Singing?
Thank you so much for having me.
There's an interesting intersection between science and art, and I believe that your work is somewhere in that intersection. What got you interested in this idea in the beginning? Do you come from a musical family, or is it more of an academic pursuit?
I consider myself a music enthusiast. Music has been an important part of my identity, but I was never for the listeners, I'm putting air quotes, I was never very good at performance. And I pursued an academic career in psychology. So it just felt kind of natural to start bridging my interest and passion in music with my academic interest in psychology, because there's so much overlap. What is happening? There's so many questions. What's happening in our bodies when we're making music together? Why does it feel so good? Why do we do it in groups? So these are the kinds of questions that drive my research.
Great questions, and maybe you could just give a few of the answers to those that you've discovered.
One idea that I find quite compelling is the idea that we make music together for social bonding. You know, back in the day, our ape ancestors, they would groom each other one-on-one. They'd pick nets out of their hair, and that's how they would bond together. But the human groups became too large and too complex to rely on one-on-one bonding. And so the idea here is that humans started making music together. They started moving together to a rhythm. So it's that precise external rhythm that everybody's moving to. And when we move together in that synchrony, we become a cohesive single unit, thinking about like bees in a beehive. So it's that hive mind that when we're moving together, we feel more similar and we are able to cooperate and coordinate and survive. So this is the idea that I find really compelling and what drives a lot of my research, the mechanism of movement synchrony underlying this group bonding effect when we're singing together.
I've had a lot of guests on this podcast who refer to this same sense of social bonding that comes from singing. That is anecdotal. How have you discovered or researched this in a scientific way so that we can not just say we feel it, but we can at some level prove it?
What we do less romantically than when we're feeling that feeling of, I don't know where my boundaries end and yours begin. We bring people into the lab, and a lot of the times we have them just listening to a metronome and tapping along with the metronome. And in that way, we can manipulate synchrony. So we can have individuals tapping together at the same time, or we can make them tap along asynchronously. And then we have them play games like prisoner's dilemma games, cooperative sharing games. We have them rate each other on how much they like each other, how they feel similar. And what we see is that based on our manipulations, when they're tapping in synchrony, we see them tend to feel more connected to the other person. They're more likely to share. They're more likely to trust the other person. And so this is really profound. This is something that we could be using in contemporary issues of intergroup challenges. And so this is part of what I was doing during my PhD research, was just looking at intergroup relations and, can we bring two groups that identify as different and have them tap together to a metronome in synchrony and learn to identify as that common in-group identity, the common group, instead of us versus them. They become we.
Are you studying people's responses, or are there also physiological aspects of this that you look at?
So in our more recent research, we're looking at group singing specifically. So we're out of the lab and into the communities, and we're bringing singing groups together. And we're looking at a range of benefits of group singing. And this is where the physiological outcomes come into play. So we are collecting saliva samples before and after group singing. And with the saliva samples, we're looking at hormones like cortisol, which is a stress hormone. We're looking at oxytocin, which is considered the love hormone. We collect heart rate variability through wristwatches to look at the heart rate variability, which actually we're expecting to see an increase in heart rate variability, which is a sign of lower stress. And we look at pain thresholds. So before and after singing, we apply pressure to a finger and we ask the participant to tell us when it's uncomfortable. So this is well before they're experiencing any pain, but we want to assess where their threshold of discomfort lies before and after singing. And what we're seeing there is that the threshold increases, and we think this is a measure of endorphins, or maybe that's a product of the decrease in cortisol that we're seeing. Let's talk a little bit more about the hormones, because I want to be clear about what's going on there. Cortisol is a very robust finding. So we're seeing decreases in cortisol from before to after singing. We think that has something to do with deep breathing, the cardiovascular engagement, the parasympathetic nervous system when we're singing together. Oxytocin is a bit more complicated of a story. What we're starting to see emerge, and I can't say this with any certainty, I say this as the findings are emerging, we're actually just analyzing more right now, that we don't see an increase in oxytocin when people first join to sing together. So this is something that emerges not after week 1, not after week 2, but if you're showing up week after week after week, this is when the group that when you first come together are just like, who are you? Who are we? What are we doing? Are we any good? And then after time, it's like, okay, I like these people. And then more time passes and it's like, okay, we're family. And it's not until that point that we're starting to see this boosts in oxytocin, the love hormone.
Is that boost in oxytocin unique to singing? Might that not also be the result of simply engaging in a group doing whatever, playing a game or hiking together?
It's a great question. And there's so much we don't know about oxytocin. We did run studies with a couple of different control groups. So we're able to compare group singing with other types of group activities. So we looked at group singing compared to, well, individual singing, which is a great control because you still get that cardiovascular engagement. We still see that decrease in cortisol, but we don't see any change in oxytocin. And we also compared it with yoga. So again, this is another group activity that is supportive of well-being, and we see that decrease in cortisol, but we don't see any changes in oxytocin. So we think this has something to do with that movement synchrony ingredient that I was telling you about earlier. So my hypothesis would be that we would still see those changes in oxytocin in drumming, circles, dancing, any activity that has that movement synchrony that bonds us together.
Fascinating questions. And again, anecdotally, people clearly report feeling more connected to groups as they go along. And oxytocin seems like a pretty good suspect for why that happens. Have you examined at all differences between unison singing and harmony singing?
No, and I think that's a really good question. I mean, there's still the element of movement synchrony when we're singing in harmony. Another interesting layer when it comes to oxytocin is the context of the group singing really matters. And so with SingWell, most of our groups are casual, non-audition, non-performance, just show up as you are, sing a song together, and then go home, compared to more elite singing groups that have a concert that they're practicing for, which don't see that boost in oxytocin. It's a lot more stressful. There's competition that's at play. And so they're hearing the person next to them and they're, am I good enough? Or are they screwing it up? There's these different layers that affect the hormones that are released when we're singing together. So I don't think it's so much about unison singing or harmony, but rather the context of the music making.
Yeah, you would think that in a choir, a high-end choir, cortisol would go up too, because
Right.
you're worried about hitting the right note, or you're worried because the person next to you isn't hitting the right note. You're listening to How Can I Keep From Singing? My name is Stuart Stotts, and my guest today is Dr. Arla Good. Talk more about the SingWell Project. It's certainly well named. What kinds of initiatives and research and activities are part of that?
SingWell is a network that is based out of Toronto Metropolitan University, and it brings together an international group of researchers who are examining the impacts of group singing on well-being. But we're also a hub for partners across Canada who are exploring the power of singing to support well-being. So this could be choir leaders, speech language therapists, second language teachers, music therapists, leaders in social prescribing. So we're a hub for all these individuals that have the same mission, which is to harness the power of group singing for more people. The project has two major pillars. So the knowledge generation pillar, this is where the research happens. This is how we're trying to better understand what are the conditions that best support individuals when they're singing together, and what are the mechanisms at play. And then the second pillar is the knowledge mobilization. So this is, the activity I'm doing right now, trying to get the message out about what we're learning so that it gets in the hands of those that can make a difference in the community. So whether that's starting singing groups in different communities, whether that's helping to train professionals to be leading singing groups, policy briefs, advocacy work. This is all just because we have the knowledge. We know that this works. We believe in it. And why are there not more singing groups out there?
Fortunately, as I've been doing this podcast, there are an increasing number, I would say, of singing groups. Out of what you've learned about how singing groups enhance people's well-being, one of the things you mentioned was context, that showing up and just having fun with people as opposed to a high expectation kind of choir. What other kinds of things have you learned about what makes singing together successful for people?
I think the context can't be understated, because one of the biggest challenges that we face at SingWell is getting people through the door. People who say, singing's not for me, I'm no good at singing. These are people who were maybe told to mouth along in the choir as a kid, and they hold that narrative throughout the rest of their life, and they think this is not an activity for me. So what SingWell is trying to do is break down that stigma and provide more access, radical access to group singing for individuals who don't identify as singers, because singing is our human right. And if we can create more spaces where you can just drop in, there's no pressure to keep showing up week after week, though you'll get more benefits. You're not working towards a performance. Show up as you are, sing as you are, and go home feeling good, get a better night's sleep because you sang that day. So this is what we're trying to market, is singing as a casual, non-performance activity that belongs to all of us.
So context, a sense of casualness and low expectations, if I can say that in a good way. Any other sorts of messages you would give to people who are out there wanting to be part of a group or wanting to start a group of singers?
For those wanting to start a group, check out our resources. We have best practice guides, and we really want to help people who are out there who want to start a singing group to know what works and what doesn't work, and what are the types of things that we have learned along the way. You're not alone. There are lots of people out there in isolation that want to be singing together and don't know where to look. So this is where SingWell is creating resources. There's a map on our website. This is a Canadian resource, unfortunately at the moment, but we'll expand eventually to the United States. But it's a Canadian-based resource that highlights all of the different singing groups across Canada. And for different populations, we work mostly with populations with communication challenges. We're looking at people with Parkinson's or aphasia or lung disease. And so we've highlighted on our map where these different singing groups are, so that an individual is at home saying, hey, I'd like to sing, can check out the map and find the nearest singing group. My advice is just to go for it, to try it, even if you don't feel comfortable singing on the first go, just show up, see how it feels. And in the right context, maybe you'll start to feel safer.
You have this mission about just getting people in the community to sing together and realize some of those benefits. You also have a whole range of studies, and I just pulled a couple here to read, with names like Enhanced Psychosocial Wellbeing for Older Adults, Understanding Group Singing in Older Adults with Aphasia, assessing the benefits of chanting for breathing disorders, and so on. So you also have more targeted kinds of research that is looking at how particular syndromes or disorders or diseases might be addressed by singing. What kinds of things can you say about those? I know there's a whole variety there, but I'm assuming that in general the results are sing more.
Yeah, sing more, sing more, be well, we say, sing well. Yeah, we are focused on different communication challenges and how singing can support communication outcomes in these groups. So depending on what challenge you're faced with, singing can help in different ways. So for example, with somebody who has breathing disorder, COPD, long COVID, singing helps. It's a workout. It's a workout for your lungs. And when you're singing, it's more fun than going to the gym. So we see benefits in breathing function, lung function, rather. If you are living with Parkinson's, singing is a workout for your vocal cords. So a lesser known symptom of Parkinson's is that their voice gets really quiet and is less able to convey emotion, the affect. So singing is something that can support the muscles in the vocal tract so that they can better convey emotion, they can speak louder. It increases their range of pitches that they can communicate. Hearing loss is an interesting one. So especially with age-related hearing loss, when we sing together, we're learning how to fine-tune our listening. And so we see improvements in hearing after singing. So these are the types of populations we focus on with our research studies, but singing is really for everybody. As I mentioned before, it's our human right. And although we focus on these populations, specifically, these are the populations who might think, oh, I have aphasia, I can't sing. It's like, well, no, actually, you need to sing more than ever. This is going to help you. This is going to support you. And it's going to create the community, a strength-based community of other people who are facing the same challenges. And they get together and they create music.
You have a network of researchers that are part of this. I'm just curious, how many? I'm assuming that for some of them it's maybe a primary focus, for others it's just one of many focuses that they might have. What, just a general idea of the range of that network?
There is quite a range. So we have leaders in music cognition. So these are folks who are studying music in various different ways. We have researchers in speech language therapy, music therapy, choral direction. It's really interdisciplinary work, which, as you said right at the beginning of our conversation, this is the bridge between science and art. And so this is where the interdisciplinary research is really a strength, that we have these different voices coming in. We have art, we have science, we have therapy. I guess what I wanted to say is that what I've heard is anecdotally is that the people who are doing the research with SingWell feel strongly about it. It's passion for folks, that they might be doing other research projects. It might not be their focus, but when I see them talk about SingWell, when we get together for our annual symposium, everybody lights up. That it's just a feel good line of research. What we're trying to create is a global movement for more singing, simply put.
The most important question about SingWell is, do you have a theme song?
No. Will you write one for
What?
us?
What?
Wow, that's such a great idea.
Where's the edge of this research for you? Where do you see it leading? Where are the big questions? What kinds of things feel unknown? Because my sense is that the results in general are singing is good. And yet, is that a blanket statement? Are there places where that's not true? What's unexplored or mysterious still?
Yeah, I think there are certainly cases where that's not true. I mean, as much as we really believe in the power of singing, and I think more people can benefit from singing, it's not for everyone. And so I think there's never a one size fits all intervention, right? But for me, when I think about the edge of SingWell or where I think we're heading, it's a paradigm shift in the medical system, in society, that singing, it becomes more embedded. It becomes more of a natural point to congregate. Like this was something that existed with religion, organized religion, that there's churches in every community and people would go there once a week and they would sing together. And as those things are slowly disappearing and as social isolation is slowly increasing, I would love to see singing, group singing, replace that as a practice. I would love to see the medical system considering group singing as a valid intervention for folks who are lonely. This is the social prescribing model. And for folks who are suffering from communication challenges, that singing is a way that they can strengthen their ability to communicate and express themselves, to feel joy, to connect with others. It's so important and profoundly healing.
We have these two different currents in the culture, of course, towards more isolation, more screen time, more sitting at home alone, and then this other competing desire to connect, and yet what it takes to get out the door, to turn off Netflix, to walk into a room where you don't know people, without a clear sense that this is going to be a benefit. Your work certainly provides one impetus for people to say, well, it's not just how it feels, but scientists say it as well.
So we're trying to amass this body of evidence to convince whoever needs convincing that singing is good. The person who's showing up every week to their local community choir doesn't need to be convinced, we love you, keep going. Who needs to be convinced? Doctors. So this is where we're collecting, this is where the hormones come into play. This is where the heart rate and heart rate variability come into play, all the physiological outcomes. We're also trying to convince policymakers, decision makers. And so we are running economic analyses. How much does it cost to run a singing group? And how much benefit are we getting as a society? This is a scalable intervention, and it benefits multiple people at the same time. This cost benefit analysis is easy. The math is easy. At SingWell, we're going to keep collecting the evidence and compiling it in a way that is convincing enough to see this kind of paradigm shift that I was talking about.
Is there a question that I haven't asked that you'd like me to ask?
I guess I wanted to share a little bit about my story. This idea that we mentioned, we sort of touched upon it lightly, that there's so many people that we talk to that say, I can't sing. And so this was also my story. This is a narrative that I held about myself, was I love music. I'm a music enthusiast, but I can't sing. Or I don't sing well. And I still get kind of tripped up when people ask me, do you sing? It's like, yes, of course I sing. We all sing. But are you asking me if I perform or, feel competent? That's a different question. But the first time that I found myself in a context where performance wasn't the goal, it was a singing circle where I was asked to show up authentically with whatever voice I had that day, whatever was alive in me in that moment. And I was invited to lose myself in the group of singers. Well, actually find myself. I just started crying. It just felt like grief. It felt like nostalgia. It felt like joy. And it felt like a homecoming that was so healing. And that's what kind of clicked in me, that this is what we need. We need more spaces like this where people can find their voice, no matter how it sounds. And that's, it's good for us and it feels good.
I appreciate that your passion and personal experience meets your academic interests in a way that I'm sure just keeps you going long past the long nights of sitting at the computer trying to analyze data.
Well, how lucky am I?
Exactly.
It's a privilege to do what I love.
Are you part of a singing group in any way now?
Where I live, actually, we do a lot of group singing, just getting together on any given night and singing songs together. And this is the kind of tribal mindset of like, we're not working towards a performance. We're just there to feel good, feel connected, and have some fun. So I'm singing a lot these days, I'm proud to say. This wasn't always the case. It was something that felt like it was really missing. And it's what I'm working so hard to bring to the communities in which I live and beyond. More of these spaces where we can just simply sing.
Well, your research is a gift to people who need some sort of rationale, but your personal experience also shows you just what's true. Thank you so much for talking with me here today. I appreciate a lot the work that you're doing, and I know others will enjoy hearing about this research and the kinds of resources that you offer. So thank you very much for talking with me, Dr. Good.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It was a pleasure. You've been listening to How Can I Keep From Singing, a production of Common Arts.
My name is Stuart Stotts, and my guest today was Dr. Arla Good.